Here's what I think really helped us and shot us in the foot is that after that first meeting, we were like, let's get these, and these, so like we're in it now.
Yeah.
There's no turning back.
Yeah. 8 buildings.
Yeah.
Let's just buy them up and then we'll figure it out. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, a show for people ready to turn visions into realities and ideas into businesses. Hey, I'm Luke Henry, and each week I lead conversations with Main Street dreamers who took the leap to launch a business, renovate a building, or start a movement. Their ideas, their mindsets, and their inspirations, as well as some of the highs and lows along the way. This is a place for dreamers, creators, developers, and entrepreneurs to learn, share, and be inspired to change your community through small business. Enjoy the show. Hey everybody, Luke Henry here. This is the Main Street Reimagined podcast, and I am excited today to have Alex Sheridan in the studio.
What's up, y'all?
What up? He came bearing gifts. I will have you know, brought some delicious trail mix from the Center Street Market, so thank you for that. So absolutely. Alex is the co-founder of Main Street Reimagined. He and I go back with that, fellow visionary for Downtown Marion, and one of the few other people who believed in the downtown's potential back in 2018 when there wasn't that much going on around here. You remember those days, huh?
Yes, fondly.
Yeah. So I didn't mention this earlier when we were talking before we started here, but I don't know if you realize today is the 6-year anniversary of our meeting at Marcella's.
Happy birthday, dude.
Yeah, man, when we decided to start what ultimately turned into Main Street Reimagined and the Brickyard. So thinking back to that, I mean, I remember that day like pretty vividly.
Yeah.
How do you remember that day?
Yeah, we were sitting outside.
Yep.
And I had an idea. There's like 10%. I'm like, I feel like he might be like kind of interested in the downtown stuff, because we had been chatting about it a lot.
Right.
We would get together at Panera and eat Cinnamon Crunch and stuff. Yeah. And I think you were like, what do you think that you're lacking for or need some help with? So I kind of laid it out there, and there was a lot more than I had realized at the time.
Turns out that we were actually lacking a lot more than what we realized. But yeah, that was the start of it.
Yeah.
Back in July 2018. So yeah, at that time we sat out, God bless Marcella. She had been in business there, that little restaurant, I think for almost 10 years at that point. Yeah. But there wasn't much else going on the block there. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think we calculated later it was like 70% vacant when we started out.
Yeah, the Google Maps were always fun for a while, the street view.
Right.
I think it's all updated now.
All updated now, but yeah, it was pretty rough looking. I still, I kind of like go back in time on the Google Maps sometimes, the street view, and see what it was. It was rough. So, but I mean, we both saw the potential. We looked around and said, man, why not Marion? And I remember sitting at that meeting too and saying, like, if we don't do this, is anybody else going to anytime soon? And it didn't seem like there was too much opportunity of that.
No, I think we were right. The potential was definitely there, and it is there still, and it's coming to fruition as well. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of ignorance as well.
Yeah.
That I think if we would have been just had more knowledge going in, I think it would have played out differently. But like, God bless that ignorance, though.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that we would have, for you, would you have done it if you had known how much time, money, heartache, sleepless nights were going to be involved?
Up front, if I would have known all that, probably. I don't know, probably not. But looking back, am I glad that we did it?
Right.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
But man, that would have terrified me. I mean, just the amount of time and energy and money and just like frustration, it kind of goes along with taking a building that's been empty for however long and trying to bring some life back into it. I mean, if you look at all of those numbers, I would have been running.
Yeah. We literally had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And I agree. I don't think, honestly, if I would have known what it was going to be, I don't think that I would have like willfully taken the leap. But I'm also glad that we did, despite all the, I mean, you talk about frustration and heartache and disappointment and all those emotions that came with these projects.
Here's what I think really helped us and shot us in the foot is that after that first meeting, we were like, let's get these, and these, so like we're in it now,
right.
There's no turning back.
8 buildings. Let's just buy them up and then we'll figure it out. And like you said, to some extent, it was good because it was like, well, we're in it this far. We got to keep going. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, it made it challenging, but here we are. So, a lot of people I think are glad along with us that we started that. And so, to give everyone kind of a summary, I mean, we started with 8 buildings that we bought together shortly after that meeting when we decided we were going to form a partnership and get this started on South Main Street. And then after those, we bought a handful more together and worked on those projects. And in the meantime, started several businesses, got some things going, and some other people came along and started some businesses, both in our buildings. They bought their own. Some other people have fixed up some buildings, and here we are 6 years later. Over 50 buildings have changed hands, and over 50 businesses have started or relocated to Downtown Marion since 2018.
That's incredible.
Which I think is incredible. So it's exciting. I mean, I was thinking, again, back to that meeting a little bit. Has the potential you envisioned at that time been realized?
I think so. It hasn't come as easily as I realized,
No.
or as I was hoping for. I think that there's a strong segment of our population who is incredibly supportive, and even if it's not their top choice, they're going to like go to one of these local places to support it just out of like somebody's got to, you know? I think that there's still a big chunk that I wish we could kind of like, get them to change their habits or kind of open their options up a little bit. But I think generally it's like I think it's reached its potential, and I think it's had way more of an like community impact than I anticipated.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think people have told us through the years like just how much more pride they have in the community and in the downtown. And I mean, I know it warms my heart. I know I could pretty well speak for you too. Like when people say, "Hey, I moved away from Marion, I came back, and this is incredible." Or somebody that says, "Hey, my family or my friends came to town, and I was like so excited to bring them downtown and see what's going on." And there is a lot to be proud of. And again, we don't take all the credit by any means. There's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work to make it happen. But I do think that we're seeing the momentum. And when you talk about that, I mean, I recognize as well too, it seems like a lot of like movements start this way, right? Where there's like the early adopters, then there's, kind of the next segment that's also small. And then it takes a while before you get the big chunk of the population to change their habits and behaviors. And I've always kind of recognized the last few years that it hasn't come nearly as quickly as what I hoped. But in talking to people from other communities, it's a similar pattern there as well. And so I think we're well on the track. But we're going against the grain of people who haven't gone downtown for decades. And some people that have just all of their rituals, their habits, their behaviors have them going out of town for special events or out to, Route 95 where there's a lot of the chain restaurants and stuff like that, rather than necessarily thinking about downtown. And they're more and more are certainly making it part of their habits. And like you said, there's some people that I know go out of their way to support the local businesses. And I just thank those people because they have no idea, honestly, like how much that is a benefit, not just financially, but just mentally, emotionally, for the pioneers that are out here with some really good businesses, some really nice shops and restaurants and coffee places and stuff like that are being created.
Yeah, it's like the right ideas and the right quality, and the right like passion behind it.
Yeah,
it's just like getting to that point, yeah, and it is. It's stressful, but I think it's very rewarding for hopefully everybody.
Well, and again, we're in it like every single day. We feel it like daily, weekly. Sometimes it feels like it's not changing very much. But when you do think in these big chunks of like 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, think about the amount of businesses, the amount of traffic, the amount of impact that having people in our downtown is producing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll address the elephant in the room, right? Is that like 3 months ago, we got a business divorce. And so we're no longer business partners.
Oh, more of a dissolution.
That's true. Yeah. Totally amicable. And I think that I've told people that, and they almost like don't believe that was the case, I feel like, because just like disillusions or marriage divorces, like it can get ugly sometimes with businesses. How do you think it is that we were able to kind of work through it and still be here just a few months later, like talking, and we spent an hour before we came on air just kind of chatting and talking about how things are going?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, so yeah, everything was very amicable, and like, I think we just both recognized what had to happen in order for everything to like move forward in the best way for the big picture, I think that like Bucci's and Urban and stuff, that stuff requires, restaurants suck. They're so hard.
It could be tough for sure.
So I think it requires, like being able to really kind of deep dive into that and like making that your baby. And for the last 6 years, there's been so many irons in the fire. It's been hard to give a lot of things like the proper amount of attention.
Yeah.
Because it's just like spread so thin, just like mentally, emotionally, and like time wise. And then, but like that other stuff still had to continue, and that takes just as much, if not more, like mental capacity. Just. So I think just we were both very confident in kind of what needed to get done in order for everything to continue.
Yeah.
Direction.
I think the biggest thing was just that from the very beginning, like we've been 100% united on the vision of what we envisioned Downtown Marion to be. And I think that was like so strong, and that carried us through all kinds of storms and trials along the way. But yeah, then we got to the point where, I mean, I counted up, we started 9 businesses together, and, we were running those with teams, not you and I exclusively by any means. We had some great people working with us, but at the same time, that's a lot to try to keep all of those balls in the air. And like you said, they're a very diverse group of businesses and different team members, and both of us trying to be involved with those. And we also are different people, we approach business different ways. And in the beginning, I think that helped us a lot as we went on. It helped sometimes and was challenging sometimes. And so I'm glad that we're here. I mean, I think both of us feel really good about where we're at today and that we were able to work through all that. And, out of those 9 businesses, I mean, you took 3, we transitioned a couple, I took the rest. And, I'm happy to say that especially the ones that we've hung on to, I mean, they're growing and we're still learning lessons, right? But I think, again, it all comes back to the vision of we know what we want for the community and the businesses, the development projects, the apartments, the Airbnbs, like all the things that we have are all working towards that common vision.
Absolutely. Well, and like we talked about a little bit ago, we're just not knowing how much was going to have to go into these, in all aspects. I was kind of getting to the point there where I was like, I need to breathe, and there was still plenty of time before we could see the light at the end of the tunnel, for like so many projects like that we were in the middle of. And, I mean, partially for like mental health purposes, I was getting burnt out and just needed to be able to like kind of take a step back. And
I think it got to where neither one of us felt like we were completely giving what was needed to the other partner, to our team members, to the businesses. And I think both of us were like, we'd rather, sacrifice or work things out between us than make our teams suffer frustrated or, let businesses go that are doing well and contributing to the community. So here we are. I mean, it's, I share that just because, we always tell people, businesses are hard, and doing business with family is hard, and doing business with business partners is hard. And I think that sometimes people rush into those, and sometimes it can be a really great thing. And sometimes it creates some real challenges.
Yeah. I had a couple people reach out to me about a month ago, and they were wanting to start a business or like kind of purchase an existing business, and they asked if they could pick my brain. So we sat down for like an hour and a half or so, and it was 2 friends, and I was like, listen, like partnerships are so difficult. And I learned a lot like throughout the process with you, and like, and I told them like you guys both need to just like write down every single thing that you can imagine you would do that could like piss the other person off, and like also write down everything that you could imagine they could do, and like figure it out now, and then like decide if it's worth it.
Yeah. Because there's going to be stuff that comes up. I mean, so many curveballs. I mean, we keep saying like we were just so naive and unprepared for what was coming when we first started, but we figured it out.
Yeah. And the stress of like the magnitude, the scale of like, the money that goes into these projects and the timing delays that could have. I feel like that stress really amplifies. Yeah. Or gets amplified,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Going back to what you said, I think, tell me if you agree with this. I would say that we ultimately decided that we were at the point we were most effective running things on our own. But I also would say that I don't think that either one of us could have done it by ourselves in the beginning.
Yeah.
I agree. I think especially when we came to the table with our unique gifts, I think yours was around like creativity and mine was around business. And I think that both of those were so critical for the type of projects that we were doing.
Yeah.
And even through the process of being business married for almost 6 years, like I became more creative and you developed better business skills. And then I think that equipped us to be where we are today, each kind of running in our own lanes in parallel.
Absolutely. I learned a lot from you throughout the way. And about once a week, I'm like, if somebody does something, I'm like, listen, guys, raindrops make oceans. I just like pull out like a Lukeism.
I did just say that the other day. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, those are free. Those come with the deal. So before we go forward, I mean, let's go backwards a little ways. Kind of, if folks haven't heard your story, like kind of from the beginning, how you even got the bug and vision for old buildings and for wanting to do this in the first place, you know, with me or otherwise, you know, how did that all start, and kind of what in your past like led you there?
So I mean, if I had to pinpoint it to like a specific day, I was working for Boys and Girls Club, and we had to do a CPR training, and that was done in the Caudell building, which is behind, what is that building called? Right beside the overpass on Prospect, right across the street from here, tall one.
Euler.
Yeah, the Euler building.
Okay.
So it's that building right behind the Euler building. And I don't know if I have a bad memory of this or if I was just this sheltered. But I was like, holy crap, there's a Downtown Marion. It was a legitimate thought. And so we had a lunch break, and I just like walked around for a while. And I stumbled into Byrays, and it's like, what is this place? It had been open for like 6 years. You know, I had no idea any of this existed. Like, I don't know if I've ever even drove through downtown at that point. There's no reason to. Anyway, so then I started going to Byrays frequently, and I think that's what got me excited about downtowns, and just like the experience that I had doing that was, you know, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to go kill a little bit of time. And I just like, you know, walk down the street and just stumble upon something that's just incredible, you know? So that's kind of what initially got me, kind of like planted the bug. Shout out Marcella.
Yes.
And, you know, then seeing like Nate's Barbershop, they were like another early adopter.
Yeah, right.
And William Wade. It's like all of those kind of like, it's like, okay, like this.
They're like cutting edge concepts.
Yeah.
Totally local.
Yeah. It's just like, it's possible, you know, and without having seen like those three businesses, and there were, you know, a few others as well, but like, I think those three, yeah, like you see somebody doing something well, and it kind of sets a baseline for like what could be, you know, there could have been plenty of other shops around there who weren't doing anything well. Like, I mean, you know, they were existing, but
yeah,
like all three of these places I think were like kind of inspiring, you know, it's just like, holy crap, like they're really making some cool things happen. So yeah, that's all of that I think kind of is what got me so excited about the downtown stuff. So I was doing some residential real estate, some rentals and kind of fixer-uppers and stuff for a while. Throughout that process, I kind of learned about the construction-y type of stuff and kind of how things went together, and kind of worked through some design stuff on like a much smaller level. And I've always kind of had an appreciation for old buildings and old houses. And then on one day, it all just came together. The big bang.
Yeah. Yeah. Couple other things. Yeah. I mean, I started out in residential real estate as well. We both came together with that baseline of understanding of how things go together and what things cost, which was lightly beneficial. But ultimately, we realized that commercial construction is a whole different ballgame. And so the initial budgets we had 6 years ago when we threw around numbers of what we thought it would take.
It makes me want to throw up.
I mean, it's like, in 2019 dollars, right. It was still 3x what we thought it was going to be. Yeah. And in 2024 dollars, it's probably 5x. Easily. So we learned a lot. But also, so when we first met, right, if to kind of bring that story all the way full circle. So I was a pharmacist for a short stint while I was in my pharmacy rotations.
Where at?
What?
Weren't you at Rite Aid?
Yeah.
R.I.P.
I know.
Both of them.
I know. Yeah. I'd be out of a job if I was still in the business. But yeah, so when I did my pharmacy rotation at Marion General Hospital, I worked with Dan Sheridan, OG, Alex's dad, who was a pharmacist, and we became friends on Facebook somewhere along the way, and he would always share this stuff that his son was doing with like flipping houses and stuff like that. And I was at the downtown loft tours 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. Yeah, probably. And
Flying Fish.
I saw this dude, at the Flying Fish lofts. I was walking around with his now wife, and was like, "Hey, are you Alex Sheridan?" He was like, "Yeah, who are you?"
What's it to you?
So we, I was at the Flying Fish lofts when they did the third story there, which was like totally revolutionary at the time. Yeah, those were done in 2015. And again, sort of full circle. We now own that building and just finished the phase 2 project, which is the second floor of that building. But we struck up a conversation. We talked for an hour or two standing outside of there, and then walked over to South Main Street to see this old building that you thought had potential.
I'm not going to cuss on here, but it was a hole.
It was 135 South Main Street, which is now the Brickyard on Main. So much junk, so much just filth and burned out structure and everything else. But I mean, even then, I saw the potential, he saw the potential, and here we are today now with the Brickyard on Main, which was our flagship project after we formed our partnership. We started work on that in 2019. Finished first event February 29th, 2020. The ultimate best timing ever to open a wedding event venue where you make money where people gather. So COVID hits like 14 days later or whatever. And what were your feelings at that time? I mean, do you remember like the sucker punch that was, and like what were you thinking?
Yeah, man, just the world is out of our control. Yeah. At this point, like it's a lose-lose. You try to have some events, and I mean, you were really pushing for us to get people in there. We'll spread them out and stuff. And I was like a little nervous and cautious about that, 'cause you kind of didn't know, Yeah. And I was like we gotta make the mortgage payment, but also don't want to kill anybody, know. And it was just like, what do you do?
It was ultimate lose-lose, and it was just so much. I just remember it was such a drastic change from the emotions we were feeling. We started 2018, decided to form this. October 2018, we make our announcement. Everyone's excited. We start this work. The Brickyard project's like a year long, way over budget. I mean, we leverage everything we have to make this happen. We bring it to the finish line. We're booking weddings. People are taking hard hat tours and saying how awesome this is. People, can't believe this is in downtown Marion. We're having public events, wall to wall people. I mean, do you remember that first event we had? Yeah. First of all, once again, we were so woefully ignorant of what it took to run these events and how many people would come out. But I mean, it was so much energy off the charts.
That was awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I just remember afterwards, we just like
Goosebumps.
high five. Yeah. And it was just like, this is what made all of this worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Was to have that many people, that much energy. Downtown Marion, people were like, we're bouncing around. We went over to Nate's barbershop. He had live music. We're walking the streets. Like, people are pouring out on the sidewalks and just hanging out and having a great time. They're coming in here, live music, hanging in the courtyard. And then they're like, you can't do that anymore. It was a long road back.
It was. Yeah.
From that.
I don't think it's even completely back.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, yeah. Probably not. I mean, and it took a long time. You know, all of the, so then we break into kind of like pop-up restaurant mode. Finally, we could reopen. What was that, like May or June? Mm-hmm. And we're, you know, I had my little kids running food down from top. We were making food down there and running down, and, you know, I'd bartend and you'd run music and we'd move tables and take out trash. And
well, and there was some funds available, but you had to have been open the year prior.
Yeah.
You know? And so like
it was the perfect like black hole of nothingness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got $0 in like any kind of relief funds for the Brickyard. So that was that was tough too.
Yeah, I think that something that really helped us get through. So I think one of your like big strengths is your perseverance. Like you will just be like, nope, like we're gonna make it work. We're gonna keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, through all the projects you've done, it's just like, just keep grinding. You know, just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think back, you know, with so much pain to the Brickyard and how it started out like that, but also with so much pride for the fact that we made it through. Mm-hmm. And I mean, God bless Casey Hoffman, our venue manager there. I mean, she's been with us since the beginning.
Day one. And
has done such a fabulous job. And of course, you know, still part of that with you, and, you know, worked along, and we made weddings work, and, you know, we're coming out of COVID. And so again, fast forward 4 years, the Brickyard's been in business, having events there, weddings, different events, public events, private events. So how many weddings now?
A few hundred. I mean, it's about 55 or 60 a year.
Yeah.
I think it's been average. Which
is incredible. You know, we often throw around the statistic that we've, you know, pretty much done the kind of research that about 80% of those couples are coming from outside of Marion.
Mm-hmm. And Casey did the math the other day for, so, I mean, it's probably over 80% of the couples are from Marion. Even the couples that are from Marion, most of probably half their guests aren't.
Right.
You know? But just based on the couples that aren't from Marion, like that, if the average wedding is 100 people, which I think is probably bigger than that, it was something like 22,000 people. Like, or I mean, it was a big number. I don't remember what it was, but it kind of come to our community.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, what would you say that the Brickyard has done for the downtown project and just the perception of Marion and all of that?
Yeah, I hope that it's kind of seen almost as a community center, you know, kind of like a hub. I mean, there's a bunch of businesses around now, but I like to think that this can kind of be a place where like everybody can get together through events. And I think what it's really done well at is just bringing outside dollars into our community.
Yeah, and
they're staying there for a couple nights and they're spending money. And Casey's great at just so all these couples, they're not from Marion, they don't know what's what here, and so they depend on her, and she's built up a lot of trust with them, and what she suggests they roll with typically, you know. And so
she's local caterers, local DJs and cake people and day of meals and
flowers and
and
photographers. And So yeah, both within the wedding industry, there's I think a big impact there, but then also all of the guests that are, after the wedding, they're all walking over to Shovel City or to Marion Brewing Company, and or kind of have rehearsal dinner at Amato's or Ken and Kill, and I'm really proud of like that kind of impact that hopefully it's had on the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's been our focus all along, was that this was going to be a big boon for the community, and that it was going to bring people from out of town and change their perception of Marion. I don't know about you, but I mean, I still run into people and they're like, Marion, what? Like, what's going on? I didn't know there was really much going on up there.
Yeah.
And then there's people that I run into in Columbus or Cincinnati. They're like, yeah, I was at the Brickyard for a wedding. Like that's, like you were part of that. And that was really nice. Like, and just totally surprised and complimentary about, they're like, oh yeah. And they had a local, food place, and they had the, donuts from this place. I mean, and just, it changed how they thought about Marion, just that one experience.
Yeah. My brother-in-law was at, I don't even remember where it was at, somewhere down Florida, or it was not a close state. And he was chatting with somebody, and they said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Marion." And they're like, "Oh, I was just in Marion like a couple weeks ago for a wedding." And he's like, "Where was it at?" And it was at the Brickyard. Super cool.
That's wild.
Yeah,
that's so awesome. So then the journey continued once the Brickyard got up and going, and we found another old building that needed saving when the warehouse closed in 2020. Had been sitting there for a couple of years, and we heard that it might be sold to someone as a literal warehouse. Mm-hmm. So if people aren't familiar, the Warehouse Italian restaurant, been iconic restaurant for 20 years in Marion, and had closed at COVID. And we found out that the building was going to be for sale. Had been sitting there, had some roughness to it. So how do you remember that whole project starting?
Yeah, I think what was so intriguing about that was that we were doing so many weddings at the Brickyard. So 55 or 60 in the very densely concentrated during like prime wedding seasons. And so, I mean, we're doing 2 or 3 a weekend often, and getting, 1,500 inquiries a year, but we're like limited to these dates. And so I think that's like, there was the opportunity, whereas if we had another venue, we already have the pipeline of leads and of couples. And so I think that's kind of where we're started, and we were like, okay, like I think this makes sense. And then like we'll find somebody to lease the restaurant space from us, and the world will be wonderful.
That much better.
Yep.
And here we are. I mean, that was, what, how many years into the process where, and we'd done several projects. We were, at least in our minds, less ignorant than when we started.
In our minds.
And I don't think we knew what we were in for that project either.
No. One of the point of references I like to use is that all of the electric for the Brickyard, which was, I mean, everything. There was no
electric there, right?
I don't remember what the number was, but like 100, 110,000 or something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
And then we're like, okay, we're just like upgrading some things over there, and like the costs of everything has gone up so much, where it's like
triple that.
Yeah.
Just to fix some stuff.
Yeah. It was a shock.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that both of us were kind of like, well, this has been an occupied building. It's not sat empty like for 40 years like the Brickyard had.
This will be
way easy. We're starting at a much higher plane to build upon, and it just needs some cosmetic upgrades. And we kind of forgot about the fact that it was still like a 120-year-old building. And 120-year-old buildings have have issues. And you never know. I mean, there's a lot that, I mean, this is kind of a cautionary thing to people out there looking at old buildings. Even if they've been occupied, you just don't know what's been done and not done. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking about, especially a restaurant or a big, what they call assembly use type space, there's pretty strict commercial code and fire safety requirements that go around those. And those don't get more lenient just because you don't have a lot of money. It really takes a lot to bring things up to snuff if they've not been used as that, or if systems haven't been maintained. These big buildings, it's easy to spend a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think us going into the project, expecting to lease out the restaurant initially, then kind of whatever they want to do, the build out would be on them and the equipment and stuff. So I think that's another place where it kind of snowballed. So do you want to share the story with how we ended up with the restaurant?
Go on.
So we were looking for some potential tenants and met with quite a few people.
Yeah, definitely a few that at least expressed interest and had some experience or whatever.
Yeah. At the time, I don't know that we felt completely confident in any singular one of them being able to kind of build a sustainable restaurant there. I think to the level, at least that we felt like the building kind of deserved, it's been known as just like the warehouse.
An iconic space, yeah.
Which I think is one of the best things that has going for it.
Right.
Because we're not changing the habits of a lot of these people. We're just we're injecting their old habits with some nostalgia. You know what I mean? Right. So they're excited to kind of turn those habits back on. So then we kind of were like there's a bunch of good parts here. So let's bring together those parts and let's roll with it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I want to make the point that one of the things that's been a hallmark of our approach since we very first started was that we decided very early on that even if it made a financial or time hardship on us, we were not going to just lease buildings for the sake of leasing buildings. Mm-hmm. We had a very specific vision and very specific standards around what this project in downtown was going to be, what we were going to stand for, the type of feel, that the way that the ecosystem was being built. And we didn't want to compromise that. And especially not once we got several businesses open and other people were coming and making investments. We felt like we owed it to ourselves and others to not just plug something in, be like, well, if it fails, it fails. That's on them. As long as they're paying rent, we don't care. Yeah. We care, maybe arguably too much sometimes, because then if we couldn't get something viable, we just started it ourselves, which again, there was pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
So we couldn't find someone to really come in and do it right. And then what?
Yeah, we kind of assembled a crew of the people who we had chatted with, and all right,
let's give it a go.
And just leading up to opening, just the amount of chaos that goes into a full service, just, all the inspections and equipment that hasn't been, we bought a bunch of all of the equipment and all the furnishings, and
stuff that hadn't been used for 2 years.
Yeah.
And 6% of it worked. Yeah.
And so then you're just paying for repair and repair and repair. And you had that sunk cost, Mm-hmm. So if I go back in time, probably would have just gotten a lot of new stuff, but at that point though, you're like, man, I already got this much into the repair. I don't want to just buy something new now. So you just keep trying to milk it. And then we opened, and the first week, I mean, it's just honeymoon, crazy, slam.
Beautiful.
There. Yeah.
Same feeling as when we opened the Brickyard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was so much energy. People were thanking us for resurrecting this iconic building, been a trolley station, and just so much history, so cool. And I mean, I don't pat ourselves on the back, but I think we did a really good job making it a new version of something classic. But yeah, once the honeymoon was over, it was time to run a restaurant day in, day out.
Yeah. And so for reference, I've never worked in a restaurant. I don't think you've ever worked in a restaurant.
Not until we started the first restaurant that we did prior to that.
And man, are there some moving parts.
Yeah.
And
so many.
And it's, I can think of about 700 ways to invest money and time and energy that would be easier and more profitable.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. But from a community building standpoint and for making a name for a town and a place, is there any better way than restaurants?
Yeah, no, I mean, we went into it kind of like, all right, if we're going to do this, let's try and make it a destination type place.
Yeah.
And I mean, the beautiful thing about restaurants is just it gets the feet on the street, like there's the foot traffic is wonderful. But I think restaurants and hair salons, I think both of those just bring the feet. So I think we kind of went into it like, I don't think either of us like had any thought in our minds that we were like going to like make a lot of money off of it. It's like, let's like sustain itself hopefully.
Yeah.
And, but it would just be kind of so important for the big picture.
Yeah. So here now it's been open 14 months.
Yeah.
What are some lessons learned from being in the restaurant business?
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, I think you got to be there a lot. I kind of went into this, I think we were both like, we're gonna get a good team, and we can kind of like continue what we've been doing, like deep in like the renovation and rehabs and all that stuff. And that's not real in restaurants. There's so many, the margins are slim, and there is logistically so much going on and so many moving parts that if you're not like just eagle eye over the whole thing, you can quickly go in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if there's somebody out there that's considering a restaurant, I mean,
call me.
Certainly. Yeah.
I was joking. But for real, 740.
I mean, it's not to necessarily completely talk them out of it by any means, but I think you've got to go in like eyes wide open. And hopefully the people that are considering like opening something have had some restaurant experience, which is wise.
Yeah. I mean,
I recommend.
I think if this were like owner operator, I think it would be doing, I think it's doing all right, but I think it would be going so much smoother.
Yeah.
Somebody that's in there that knows the restaurant, that like is 100% invested in.
Yeah. Well, and
you don't have that big salary, like management salaries.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that too, that we heard early in our kind of development journey, somebody tell us like, hey, like 2,000, 2,500 square feet restaurant, like that's a sweet spot, maybe 30 to 50 seats or something like that, because you can have that owner operator. You can really keep an eye on most everything, control the hospitality element, the kitchen element, fairly minimal staffing, like really is a great way to go. And I mean, we jumped into this 100-seat restaurant with, if you use the patio or the dock, which is the, secondary private room and bar area. I mean, another 100 seats, easy.
Yeah, easily.
And somewhat constrained kitchen environment and catering. So there's some challenges with all that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jumping that in, into that for the first experience.
Yeah. And I mean, just utilities from the building being so big, and there's so many different areas of the building where it's hard to keep track of your inventory properly, so like you check and it's like, okay, we don't have any of this, let me order a case of this, and then like downstairs in some random room. Like there's 3 cases of it sitting there. So that's what, I mean, we're really trying now, like just work on like setting some processes and that's not my strength. But Carrie, our new general manager, she's really, really setting some stuff up that makes me sleep a lot better at night. Just knowing that she's kind of on top of those things and pushing it. And I think combination between her and Casey, I need those type of like structured people in my life, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a great lesson learned as well. I mean, just once again, like great people make great businesses, period. But also as an owner, you know, I mean, when we parted ways and like I wasn't doing certain things, like you found you needed to backfill with the right people, you know, bringing those strengths to the team. And I mean, I've, you know, had the same on the other side of things. And so it makes such a difference to have those right people, and you just learn as you go and you figure it out. But I mean, yeah, we could probably talk for quite a while about the pitfalls and the challenges of running restaurants and just what you have to be guarded against. Maybe we'll make that a part 2 sometime. But I mean, and again, just to kind of give some color to people that don't know, I mean, really what we created and what Alex now is operating is a whole like kind of wraparound hospitality brand with the Brickyard, our original wedding and event venue, Urban 501, another wedding and event venue, Bucci's Italian Scratch Kitchen, it's the restaurant, and then also offers catering to those venues and others, and then private party opportunities, private events, just really anything related to that. And it takes there's a lot of moving parts with all that.
I think it'll kind of forever be in flux a little bit, you know, just trying to figure out the best way to make everything work together. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot about the challenges and joked around about it, but I mean, what keeps you doing it?
I'm in too deep, dog. No. With the restaurant or just everything?
Yeah, in general. I mean, with event venues and all that too.
Yeah. I mean, just being able to be a part or like set the stage for just like some of the best days of people's lives, right. You know, like in both with like the wedding stuff and at the restaurant, you know, where like people go together to have a good time. And I think it's so much more about who they're with and the kind of hospitality you can provide them and the kind of how the environment and everything, like the ambiance plays into that. Like they remember that they had a great time there. Mm-hmm. And the food is very, very important, but I think that like what people keep in their memory, you know, 30 years from now is like who they were with. Yeah. And if we can try and create a spot where they can really have those moments, that, I mean, that stuff gets me going.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see it, you know, I see it in there as, you know, now more just an everyday patron. But I mean, I remember when we were kind of vision casting to the original team about this, you know, we said like, hey, this has to be the hallmark of what this place is known for, is just, you know, these are the tables where people are making the memories that make their lives. Mm-hmm. And it's so exciting to be a part of that. And with the weddings and some of those like kind of key moments of people's lives as well. Yeah. You think about both from the venue standpoint, but then also just, again, kind of from a placemaking standpoint in Marion, Ohio. You know, they get married in Marion, they're forever tied here. Yeah. Even if they're from Cincinnati or Toledo or Cleveland or Columbus, wherever they're coming from, they've got strong ties to Marion that hopefully will lead them back here sometimes and have those fond memories. And
something that we're thinking about doing is like a little reunion tour with like all the couples. Like we're gonna send out an invite to all of them. They'll come back for like basically like a fake wedding, you know, where like they're just guests.
Love
and
that.
so we'll have it like catered by Bucci's, and we'll just have a giant party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome. I still go into the Brickyard for events and stuff, and see all the Polaroid photos of everybody that's gotten married there, and it's gratifying, you know, to think that if we hadn't come along with the vision for that place, it'd still be a building that had been vacant for now 50 years instead of 40 some, and now it's a bright spot for sure. So what are you excited about when you think about the future of Downtown Marion?
I think seeing it I think I'm excited for I think the foundation is here right now. I think it's strong. I think there's some really good businesses, some really good operators, and some really good energy. I'm excited to see like that kind of 80% or whatever it is of residents that kind of haven't explored it yet. You know, I feel like when they start getting in it, and I feel like it's going to kind of be a big boom for that really fast, you know, when that word starts getting out, and neighboring communities. I think that we have something going on here that a lot of the smaller communities around us don't necessarily have. And kind of optimistic that we can kind of be their go-to city for date nights. And
yeah. And we definitely have seen that. Yeah. I mean, anecdotally, we see that all the time, really. I mean, you see it at Bucci's, you know, kind of chatting with people, and I see it around some of the local boutiques and just walking the sidewalks and stuff. And I'm reminded of the phrase gradually, then suddenly. And I feel like we're still like in that gradual phase. It's like the water's like leaking through the dam, you know, like you're seeing like all the right things, you know, like coming, and all the people and all the right businesses and energy, and like you said, operators, and we've just got some fantastic people that Absolutely. I call them pioneers in Downtown Marion. I mean, they put their business in a longer established community. They're killing it. I mean, I'd put them up against most any business of their type in a bigger town, and they're doing awesome. And I think, you know, it's just, I'm not sure exactly when it's going to happen, but I see it coming, that we see that things kind of really bust loose and it come together. So
yeah, I think it's close.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. It's even like the best businesses, you know, and the best operators, like it's a grind still, you know, and I like for them and for myself and for the community, like I'm just like, all right, come on, you know, just kind of hit that point where everybody can just kind of breathe a little easier. And I think everyone's bought into like the vision and the potential, and I think they're starting to like realize some of the potential, but we're just like so close to just
So I mean, if you're someone listening and you're local to the Marion area, or you're within a drive, we invite you to come and check it out. We're really excited for the things that are happening here. Again, Alex is a big part of that. You know, we started this thing out together. Now we're operating in different lanes, but he's doing a great job. You know, we continue to see the vision for what's possible. We're grateful for the other people that are making it happen as well. And so check it out. Some great restaurants. Certainly recognize Bucci's Italian Scratch Kitchen is one of the very gems in our downtown. So be sure to check it out. If you have the opportunity to go to, you know, it's not just weddings and private events like that, but you're continuing to add to the calendar with events at the courtyard at Bucci's and events at the Brickyard that are open to the public. What are some of those that are coming up, or where can folks find info on that?
Yeah, so July 20th, we're doing dueling pianos again. And this one will be as a fundraiser for Habitat for Humanity. And I would just check out our Facebook page for a link to that.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah,
but I know there's some stuff coming up.
Yeah, there's stuff.
Okay, yeah. So Facebook pages, be sure to be following Brickyard on Main, Urban 501, and Bucci's Italian Scratch Kitchen. So thanks for being on, man. This has been a great time.
Absolutely.
Great trip down memory lane. And I'm excited for where we've come and excited for where things are going. I'm really glad that you're still completely bought in, making it happen, doing the hard work to bring this stuff to fruition.
Likewise. Should we tell a story about our fist fight now?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to embarrass you.
Okay.
There was no fist fight, people.
No.
It's all good.
Just hugs.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks again for tuning in to this episode of the Main Street Reimagined podcast. Look forward to catching you on the next one. Thanks for listening to the Main Street Reimagined podcast. To learn more about Main Street Reimagined, Henry Development Group, or our work in downtown Marion, Ohio, please visit mainstreetreimagined.com. If you want to connect, or if you know someone who we need to interview, shoot us an email at info@mainstreetreimagined.com. Until next time, keep dreaming and don't be afraid to take the leap.